midst. Brothers and sisters, we come to the Sunday meat fair, the Sunday of the Last Judgment. And of course we have this very powerful gospel, which is uncompromising. Doesn't seem to be any room here for negotiation. This is what we have to do. And the thought occurs, is it possible that our life as Christians is more complicated than this? For example, let's say that we undertake to obey these commandments, which we should. And does the way in which we do them matter? Supposing that we are feeding someone who is hungry, or we are visiting someone who is lonely. While we are doing that, does it matter exactly how we are thinking? What our self-awareness is in the fulfillment of this commandment? I think that is probably very important, because if we are doing these things and at the same time that we are doing them, we are thinking that we are better than someone else, or that we have accomplished something. If we are reflecting on this commandment to care for others, and especially the least of my brothers, he says, if we are thinking at the same time that this somehow is guaranteeing our salvation, which is really quite literally what is said here, isn't that a problem for us? I think it certainly is, because we can fall into a sense of hypocrisy in the fulfillment of these commands. The spirit in which we undertake them is crucial. And while we have this gospel today on this Sunday of the Last Judgment, we also have to stand and live in tension with the Pharisee and the publican, and with the prodigal. Understanding that even while we are accomplishing these evangelical duties, to visit those who are in prison, or to give a drink to someone who is thirsty, even while we are doing that, we are still the publican. We are still a sinner. We are still, before God, extremely weak and not worthy of anything. We cannot build, in a sense, our own salvation on a kind of Tower of Babel made up of good works and good deeds. Even though good works and good deeds are essential, and we know, and St. Paul teaches us, that faith without works is empty and dead. Still, what must invigorate, what must inspire these works, these actions, is a sense of our own inadequacy, of our own incompleteness, of our own brokenness, and of our humility before God. And so the Christian life, then, is one of a balancing act. It's not an act, it's not a social program, as it were. Even though we cannot be ignorant or indifferent to the social needs of those with whom we live. We have to be aware and engaged in addressing everyone's needs, and at the same time be aware of our own circumstance, that we cannot save ourselves, and that we are not saving ourselves, that our salvation is something that is completely beyond our own right. Comes to us as a completely undeserved gift, something that is radical and different from ourselves. It comes to us from a God who manifests a great love and care for his created world, who doesn't abandon us, but who nurtures us. And he continues to save us. He saves us in spite of the things that we are doing, in spite of all of our inadequacies, and not because of them. He saves us. And even when we are imperfect in the completion of these duties, we believe that nonetheless he is merciful. So this gospel is a challenging one for us, challenging us not to interpret it in an overly simple fashion, understanding the complexity of the Christian life is, in a sense, a balancing between these responsibilities on the one hand and our own inadequacy, a inadequacy that is filled up and completed not through ourselves and on our own bootstrapping, but on God's mercy and compassion. Amen.